All right, that was President Ramaphosa a little bit earlier today talking about easing visa restrictions, and perhaps that will assist in the movement of people across the continent. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that just now, but first let me introduce our guest for today, Victor Kgomoeswana, who's written extensively about the subject of this Scramble for Africa in his book, Africa is Open for Business. He's an analyst, a facilitator, a consultant on African business development, amongst many other hats that he wears. Victor, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you again, Peter.
All right, so we started the show asking questions about, is there this new scramble for Africa? The first one, of course, 19th century colonization. Then the second one was the Cold War era, the America versus Russia and the Eastern Bloc vying for influence on the continent. And they say that there's a third surge that's taking place now. So, 2000, China starts FOCAC, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. And now Russia begins its process with the Russia-Africa Summit. What does this tell us?
It tells us, Peter, that everybody has a plan for Africa except the Africans. Because if you have FOCAC, Forum for Africa-China Cooperation, you have TICAD, the Japanese have their cooperation, you have the Europeans have always had a plan. Think about it, you have the Commonwealth. And what the Commonwealth effectively is countries that are happy to keep and stick together by virtue of who used to colonize them. And you have the French equivalent of the Commonwealth, the Francophonie. And then you have now, as you are showing, Russians who are showing that they are not going to be left out of the action because the Soviet Union no longer exists, just like the British Empire no longer exists. So everybody for himself or herself, and that's what you are seeing. But does Africa have a plan for itself? I wonder. Yes, we do have science. We do have awareness that we need to act. But the distance, the time between the awareness and the action is just too long. Right.
We'll talk about our own efforts, and these visa restrictions, I think, is just one
He should have done it already. What is he talking about, visa requirements? He should have done it already. Tourism is the easiest way to make money for any country.
We'll come back to our own efforts, but what I want to get an understanding for is, why now? What is the prize for all these powers that are trying to get influence and their hands on the continent? What is the prize?
The prize is Africa. Peter, let's talk about this in numbers. You are numbers. Africa has 20% of the land mass of Earth. So 20% of planet Earth, the land mass, is Africa. Only 15% of the world population is here. Which means, if you think about it, this 1.2 billion people we have could be 5 times more than what it is. There would still be enough room on the African continent. Minerals, even after the raiding that has been happening for centuries, there are still so many minerals. And I'm talking about the traditional minerals like gold and diamonds to modern ones like tin and coltan that go into making the tablet you're holding right now. You talk about climate. You can grow anything on the continent. The arable land, immeasurable. The coastline, immense. The fact that you have biodiversity, you have just about everything the world needs is here. So that's the prize. That's why the world is not sleeping.
But as you said and listed all of those things, those were true during colonization. What's the urgency now that the interest is doubling, tripling, quadrupling?
No. You see, the mistake you can make is that I'm saying even after the raiding, which means Zimbabwe, even after the Marange diamond catastrophe, still has so many diamonds. South Africa, even after the mines have been going on for so long, yes, we know the mines are deeper and expensive, but there's still gold here. The DRC, after King Leopold did his shenanigans and what happened, the DRC is the cradle of mining. So that is the one thing. So it's not like anybody could ever raid Africa and finish it. But the real scramble, if you look at China, the land mass that I talked about, China has lots of people, no land. it needs land to grow food for its own people. In fact, if you listen about the food side of this equation is a lot more exciting. Agriculture, because Africa has arable land. It's got a good climate to grow just about everything. The world needs food security, and where do they go? They come here.
So agriculture is the new gold, isn't it?
It is the new goal, because if you think about it, all the 7 billion people of the world, only 1 billion of them are in the African continent. Those Americans, those Europeans, those Chinese, they all like to eat, and what they eat comes from the soil.
So are we now, when we look at ourselves, not seeing what's happening and allowing these people to come in, take us to their WEFs, to their FOCACs, their, and we get wined and dined, and we're not seeing that there's this Trojan horse that's coming into play?
We see it, Peter, but we are too small-minded, and we are too divided. When I say divided, I mean we are not working on the same game plan. So we see it. You and I are talking. We know this. I mean, we are on the media, on the public broadcaster. So it's not like we are sleeping. We know what's happening. The problem is, to win against a system that's colonized you for centuries, you got to have a plan that works. And right now, Africa has forums, it's got symposia, workshops, conferences, it's got advisory committees and task teams. I don't see a plan that anybody is getting up every day and saying, how far, Peter, are you on the task I gave you that's going to take us to the 25-year plan we agreed upon?
So we've got Agenda 2063. Isn't that the thing? And then in each country, we have something like the National Development Plan that we have here.
Yes.
Isn't that the plan that you're talking about?
Yes, but a plan without action is a pipe dream, isn't it? It's nice grammar, it's nice poetry. But if you're not acting on it, listen, if I say you're starving tonight, you don't have anything to eat, you're going to get up and do something. Because the consequences of you not doing anything will be that you die of starvation. At the moment, because we are cushioned by what politicians are telling us, and we still don't realize that the distance between what we want and what we are now can only be covered if we are consistent and disciplined. At the moment, we know what we need to do, but I think we're just not disciplined enough to do it or to hold one another accountable to achieve those.
So what are the consequences? Because we're seeing the wave coming now, more and more. I mean, I saw a statistic somewhere just the other day. Between 2010 and 2016, more than 320 embassies were opened in Africa. I mean, that is just, you've got these alarm bells ringing all the time. If we do nothing, what will we see the continent look like in, let's say, 10 years?
It's almost like Charles Dickens' Bleak House. You know, while we're fighting who is Kwere, who is Zimbabwean, who's Mozambican, who's Nigerian, by the time we wake up, our wealth would have been taken by the Chinese, the Russians, the Indians, the Australians, and the Brits and the Americans, because we are not coordinating our efforts. So before we know it, just like you and I grew up wanting our O levels, people will be wanting their O levels, the Chinese equivalent of their O levels, because China will be having a better plan and a better formula to make things work for us. And our children will look at Africa and look at China and think, maybe we're better off in China. But what that would mean is we would have sold the mineral rights, we would have given a lot of land to foreigners, we would have given a lot of land for foreigners to farm, we would have created so many properties but we won't own a bit of them, we would have mortgaged everything we have to build the infrastructure that we are too lazy or too corrupt to manage or create. Because if you listen to the Zondo Commission, all that money that went into people's pockets should have built the infrastructure that would make the economy productive. Chinese are not having the Zondo Commission. They are having a plan and a result and a report to say, oh, of the lending that we did, how much are we getting back? That's what is going to happen. We're going to wake up and the eagles will have flown to everywhere else.
Is BRICS one of these eagles?
It is. Certainly. Because who created BRICS? Jim O'Neill? Jim O'Neill at, what is it, Goldman Sachs? Goldman Sachs. He was a consultant. He was creating some template for himself to sound very nice and intelligent to his clients. He said, oh, Brazil, Russia, India, China, those countries had nothing to do with each other. He created a community, and guess what? We joined the flock, and we want to belong to a game that we did not create. How about our own African Union that's been around since 1963? Why didn't we get as excited about it, about belonging to the African Union and behaving like real Africans?
So what do we do? I mean, you know, we have right across the continent some of the best brains that are being cherry-picked by the international community. We've got fantastic universities all the way from Makerere all the way down to the universities here. So we've got the capacity to think, to make the right decisions. How come that's not translating into recognizing these eagles that are coming around us?
But that's the thing, you know, you're going to break my heart. You know, you watch Formula One?
Yes, I do.
You follow Lewis Hamilton?
Yes.
Right. You know, whenever Lewis Hamilton wins the championship, I mean, what is it? A race.
Yeah.
Have you noticed among the people he goes to hug and get excited with, there's an African girl there?
Yes.
You know who that girl is?
Who is she?
Her name is Stephanie Travers. She's 24. She's an engineer that runs Lewis Hamilton's fuel technology.
Wow.
You know what nationality she is?
Where from?
Zimbabwe.
Wow.
So, what I'm saying to you is this. Not only are we having the old people like Strive Masiyiwa, who are called London-based Zimbabwean businessmen, or Mo Ibrahim, who are called Londoners born in Sudan. We have even 24-year-olds like Stephanie Travers who are saying, I'm going to run Formula One for Lewis Hamilton because I've got engineering skills that my own continent is not able to utilize. Peter, simple. We have a plan. If we have a plan, do we have measurable targets as to who's doing what on what basis? And what do we do if they don't achieve? And there are examples, by the way, on the African continent of leaders who are able to hold people accountable. But whenever they do, what do? We marginalize them as dictators and we call them all kinds of things. One of them is John Magufuli. He caught out many British companies literally stealing diamonds from Tanzania without declaring them. When he acted, what did the media call him? A dictator, he's anti-business, he is this, he is that. When he's saying, but wait a minute, you can't do business in my country and not pay me royalties that are due. He literally caught some of them at the airport having under-declared the value of the diamonds they were carrying. So I'm saying we do have Africans who are bold enough to act. But if we are not careful, even those examples, we will chop them because we will say, yeah, but you're not making London happy. You're not making the US happy. It's up to us to find out that which we have and hold it high enough for the world to see.
So if you look at all these eagles that are circling Russia, China, maybe even America, perhaps
well,
not so much.
What do you mean maybe even America? What do you mean maybe
Because at
even
the moment,
America?
Donald Trump perhaps isn't flying in as low as the others. Who do you think perhaps is the one that we need to be more observant about and more cognizant of?
It's Africa itself.
Not these others.
Nobody else. Those people are doing what they are going to do. Hey, I would do the same if I were Chinese premier. I would do the same if I were Angela Merkel or if I were, what's the Russian?
Vladimir Putin.
If I were Vladimir Putin. And I found Africa that was happy to come and be treated to vodka in my country because I want mineral rights in there. I would do the same, right? I'm growing my own economy. The real eagle, the real enemy we need to watch is Africa itself. The small-mindedness, the failure to appreciate what we have, the laziness to apply ourselves, to try to understand what game we are playing and losing and how we can change our fortunes. The lack of unity amongst ourselves, that we are happy to nurse the borders that were drawn by colonial powers in 1884 that have nothing to do with us. And we are chasing one another now, calling each other Nigerian and Zimbabwean and Zambian and Ghanaian, literally killing one another. That's the enemy we must defeat. It's right inside us.
All right, I want us to explore that quite a bit after the break. We're going to look at us ourselves going forward, but perhaps just to sort of round up the international, the Eagles. I'm just wondering, have countries like China been playing a long game that we didn't see coming? Because when we were fighting for liberation, they gave us guns, they trained our liberation movements. Had they a 30, 40-year plan in play already that's playing out?
They play a 1,000-year game. The Chinese don't mess around. You read books like The Art of War, you'll understand. They don't play short term because they know short term is never going to last. So you're right. They played us all along. Everybody else is playing us except ourselves.
All right, we'll explore how we can defend our innings after this break. Thanks so much. All right, you're still watching African Perspective. When we come back, we'll start to explore our own initiatives and what we can do to stem this tide. Stay with us.